Awaken.
Yay, we're sitting in the correct places. Huzzah!
I'm awake.
Ha ha. There is no better way to start this campaign.
Right.
It's our whole vibe.
Yeah, basically.
Welcome to session 0.
Yay!
It's good to see everybody coming on in here. It's especially good to see the 3 of you in here.
You too?
Yes.
Hey, look at that.
Same. Thanks for the follow.
Word whisperer.
That's kind of a badass.
Right?
A good name.
Big fan. Oh,
Thank
shit!
you for all the resubs, folks.
Obsidian! Welcome back. And yes, thank you so much, everybody. Oh my god, I think we got
Yeah.
half a dozen resubs here. Good job, everybody.
Oh, Werewolves may or may not drop in to say hi in chat at some point.
I think so.
Oh. You know, it's actually kind of funny because this is right around the 3-year mark for our relaunch on this channel. Right? We've been doing this for a while, but we swapped over. And thanks for the Prime sub. That's fantastic. And here we are. We're getting ready for our next major campaign.
Yeah.
Hell
And
yeah.
we've been waiting for this one for a long time.
That is correct.
Uh,
Whoa! Whoa!
Sub
Thanks,
Marvel.
Gil! Oh, shit. Yay!
Also, yes, my name is Cool. It's exactly what we would have hoped for. Today is our session 0 for our Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition Chronicle, which we are calling Montreal by Moonlight. The book is in. Do you even have the book over there?
It's behind you.
Oh, no, it's behind me. The book's right there.
Yeah. Peeking in.
Peeking in. The book is in. We've had a look. We've been waiting for this book for a while. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Flower.
Thank
Holy heck.
That's a bunch.
Holy heck, now I'm a werewolf. Oh my God. Get him out of here.
And today, we're going to go over what we've done privately in our own kind of session -1 that we do offline to make sure that we've got stuff. We'll be able to introduce not only Werewolf the Apocalypse as a game, but also our setting and our characters. We'll go over our standard session 0 stuff like safety, house rules, and the like. And especially, we're going to be answering your questions. We've received questions on our Discord, and we also have questions that we'll take from you live. Don't forget, if you are live, you can use an exclamation mark, a Q, and then a space. And then whatever you type will get automatically added to our question queue so that we can make sure to bring it up. Are you excited?
Yes!
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your experience with Werewolf the Apocalypse to start.
I have not played it before. I've been aware of it for a long while, but I've never had the opportunity to play it before now. But I read the heck out of the book.
Like no experience, but have been around many people who are huge fans of it.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
that's added to the hype, right?
No, no, no. Who's
Happy.
that? I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Everyone in the chat doing the same. I mean, look, I similarly have no experience having played, although, as has not yet been mentioned, but probably a lot of folks in the chat know, on RPGClinic we do have a long storied history with the World of Darkness more generally. So through our Changeling the streaming campaign and then also Changeling Riverwild Less, we had some exposure to the Guru werewolves within, but not within Werewolf the Apocalypse, right? Through the lens of a different facet of the World of Darkness. But I'm excited as heck to get looking and get playing.
For people who don't know, I've actually had a long association with Werewolf the Apocalypse, been playing it way back in the decades. I've played in tabletop games, in LARPs. For a long time, I ran one of the larger online community Werewolf the Apocalypse campaigns, and I've been waiting for an edition to introduce to people new to the game. Because as much as I love Werewolf the Apocalypse, and as much as I think that game, the earlier editions, the revised edition, W20, go all the way back to first if you want. If those are the games for you, by all means play them. But I wanted an updated version of the game. I wanted a version of the game that would bring about the changes that I was really looking forward to seeing. Dropping some of the themes of the game that I felt no longer applied to the game I wanted to play, dropping some of the terms which were perhaps chosen in error, and this edition has delivered for me in that respect. So we're also going to have to ask everybody out there in Chatland or in Discord or watching on YouTube or listening on our podcast feed to bear with us, as this game is new. It is new to our players, but the 5th edition is also new to me. We're going to have some unique struggles in that they're new to this. I am also dealing with a backlog of expectations and knowledge, which may no longer apply. So we'll work on it. We'll see what we can do to get that sorted out.
That is good to point out. I will also, again, a lot of people in chat probably already know, but I'll draw everyone's attention to our YouTube channel, where there are not one but 2 RPGClinic Hours videos in which John and Kate did reactions to Werewolf: The Apocalypse 5th edition, and then also like a kind of deeper dive into the system as printed, and sort of expectations around it. Just in terms of like, not a primer per se, but sort of other reactions that have already happened outside of the context of actually playing it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Thanks,
Well,
Arquin.
In terms of the game itself, we probably should be giving you a little bit of a primer as to what the hell we're talking about, and what the game is. What, in fact, is the core of Werewolf: The Apocalypse. And then we'll get into some more specifics about this game in general. The World of Darkness is set in a world that's very much like our own. The World of Darkness encompasses such game lines as Vampire: The Masquerade, Werewolf: The Apocalypse, Mage, The Ascension, Changeling: The Dreaming, and then you can go even further if you wanted to with Demon: The Fallen, Mummy, Hunter: The Reckoning.
Yeah.
Hunter is actually has a 5th edition,
Right.
so I suppose I should make sure to keep it in mind. The core of the World of Darkness, though, has changed from the revised and 20th anniversary editions to the 5th edition. They've updated it, there have been changes, but one thing to point out that's very particular is that the game lines are designed to be run potentially together, but it's best to sort of base your knowledge on what the game is on the core game that you're playing. So we're going to make the assumptions that we are using Werewolf: The Apocalypse 5th edition rules for even other supernaturals that may exist in this game if they show up. So if it doesn't appear exactly how you're familiar with, like Vampire 5th, that's intentional, because the game lines do play nicely, but they don't play all the time nicely. Imagine a world that has been created through 3 forces known as the Triad: the wild, the raw force of creation; the Weaver, the force of stasis that gives things rules and meaning; and the Worm, that decomposes, breaks it down, and returns things to the primordial force that the wild can then pick back up again. But imagine that we are living in a world where the Worm has run amok. We're living in the age of the apocalypse. Gaia is dying, and everyone else is just dancing on her ashes while she screams. Corporations, which may or may not have been directly influenced by the Worm, are still trying to hollow out what little they can from the earth just to make one last buck before it all goes to hell. And in that world, we also have to understand that it's an animistic. Animistic meaning that spirits of individual items, people, animals, and all around exist in this universe. And their interactions also balance what we understand as normal. Humanity isn't aware of this, or if they are, only dimly, and they get a lot of things wrong. They're not aware of the fact that there is a reflection of the physical world known as the Umbra, the spirit world, where there are an entirely different viewpoint in how the world is surviving today. And they are also largely not aware that Gaia does have warriors prepared to fight this apocalypse to try to claw their way back. Known as the Guru, werewolves exist in today's society, and that's what our player characters will be playing.
All right.
Werewolves themselves. But things aren't going so hot for the werewolves. They formerly had what was known as the Guru Nation, a collective of tribes that would work together ostensibly in order to try to avert apocalypse. This has largely failed. The apocalypse, if some agree that it has already happened, some believe that it is in the process of happening, but pretty much everyone has come to the conclusion that it is no longer something that can be avoided. It is inevitable if it hasn't already arrived. And in the ashes of the Gru Nation, however, the Gru are starting to pick themselves back up, thinking, what the hell? We might as well try to get back what we can, to reclaim what we can. So there are still vestiges left of the Gru Nation, including the 13 tribes that make up werewolves, although now, of the Gru Nation, only 11 are part. In fact, there have been other previous tribes, but it's getting a little bit into the weeds. Player characters have 11 tribes to choose from. And the auspices under which you are born, the moon that shines in the sky when you have your first change, dictates to a certain degree how you serve Gaia. Your tribe is why. So, with that being said, that's Werewolf the Apocalypse in an extreme nutshell.
You know.
That was great, though. Very well disseminated.
John, can I ask you to pull down the speakers just by a little bit, since it's so far from us and sort of far from you? Like,
Thank you.
A little bit more. Thank you.
Extreme.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree. It's like, I really feel like we hit on all the important sort of like thematic topics there and how things interact with each other in this universe. Excuse me.
So with that being said, what are your expectations for the game? What are the sorts of things that you're interested in seeing as we move forward? The themes that you'd like to cover and the events that you'd like to see occur?
Sploon.
I got all of that.
I am excited to explore what it is to always have anger and rage bubbling under the surface in various ways that actually manifests. I'm interested in a world where your anger can be channeled into something effective and useful. Hopefully useful. Possibly destructive. On purpose or accidentally.
Right, exactly. Whether or not that's useful depends.
Very much that. And I'm also excited to see the struggle between your guru duties and the interactions and the connections and the touchstones that you still have in the human side of things. People who can never and will never know about this colossal part of your life.
I'm excited to, I think, again, I'm echoing other sentiments. Two things that stand out to me. I'm excited to see what it's like to play characters who have the opportunity to venture forth into another version of our reality, the spirit realm, the Umbra, I should say. But also, if we're talking about rage and we're talking about fighting, I'm really excited to see what it's like to play a character who has the freedom, nay, the calling, to do what is just and what is right for them in that moment. I think, in our lives, we try to do what's right, but we often have, responsibilities or things that keep us from perhaps doing that to our fullest extent sometimes. And these warriors of Gaia, in theory, don't. That's their purpose, right? That's what I'm excited to do.
I mean, all of you have mentioned rage.
Yeah.
And rage being one of the core parts of being a werewolf. If it's one of the resources that you have access to, your rage colors everything that you do. Dice rolling in Werewolf the Apocalypse happens using one of the many iterations of the storyteller system, which means that we are dealing with D10s.
Hey.
the only dice that are rolled in Werewolf the Apocalypse are a number of 10-sided dice, but when you make your roll, you are creating a pool based on an attribute. So these are things like strength, charisma, wits, intelligence, and a skill. These could be things like athletics or intimidation or technology. Combining the two and rolling that many dice, looking for dice landing at a 6 or higher. There's more permutations than that, but also your level of rage on a scale of 1 to 5, 0 to 5, I suppose I should be clear,
It's true.
does affect things because you will swap out dice in your pool for rage dice, depending on what your rage is. And if you roll certain things on rage dice, things can get interesting.
Yeah.
It has it has some potential to make things go upside down pretty quickly. While botches aren't a thing in Werewolf 5th Edition, like you might have seen in other World of Darkness or Storyteller system games, brutal outcomes are rolling a 1 or a 2 on 2 or more of your rage dice means that if you weren't trying to destroy something, something's getting destroyed anyway.
Exactly. I think that's such a clever. I mean, we're going to see it in action and see how it feels, of course, but like that feels to me like such a clever permutation of the idea of the botch. You try to do something and it goes horribly off the rails, perhaps through your fault, perhaps through no fault of your own. But in Werewolf 5th, these brutal outcomes, rather than just saying, well, it didn't work, or like it didn't work, but if something exploded, instead, the rage that you have at the world, the situation you're in, right? Like it probably overwhelms you in that moment. So perhaps the destructive outcome is useful if you're trying to destroy something. Perhaps it's not. I think it's fabulous.
Yep.
It's a great, pretty useful.
Yeah, it feels very supported.
Yeah, exactly.
The Gourd Whisperer asked a question. We're going to get to it in a little bit because it's talking about which tribe is your favorite. I think that'll get into which characters you've chosen to play, but we've got it locked in. We'll be able to bring it out a bit later on. One thing that I should point out is just where we're setting the game. I mean, the name of the game is Montreal by Moonlight. What are we thinking here? Where is it?
Come on, Yellowknife, baby!
Charlottetown.
Charlottetown! I'm just trying to regret Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables is the force of destruction.
Oh my god!
Montreal, Quebec is a game that's actually featured in earlier versions of the World of Darkness, specifically in the book Montreal by Night, which thankfully has been deprecated and we don't have to use it. But Montreal is a city located in Quebec, the province of Quebec in the country of Canada. As a metropolis, it boasts an urban population of over 3 million people. It is largely a French-speaking city, although it does have a significant Anglophone population, along with an Allophone population, those who have a first language that is neither English nor French. And it is a city that's an island that is sitting directly smack dab in the middle of the St. Lawrence River, which basically feeds out into the Atlantic Ocean. We have previously had a chronicle set in Montreal, Changeling the Streaming. You can go and check that out if you want to see 130 plus episodes of role-playing goodness. But this chronicle is entirely independent of that one. So no other elements of that chronicle. If they show up, it's unintentional. So you have no need to go back and check if you don't want to. No knowledge of Changeling the Streaming is required in order to fully appreciate Montreal by Moonlight.
Good.
How do you feel about coming back to Montreal?
I mean, awesome.
Great.
Fantastic.
It's exciting to be able to say street names and neighborhoods with confidence.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that, the idea of sort of,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we're going to get to it a little later, I'm sure, but going like, okay, what neighborhood is this thing in? And like being like, oh, I've been there. Oh, do you remember that street corner that's so gross? Or like whatever.
Yeah, or even if it's like, okay, where should, the bad guys are running at us. Oh, well, if I run here, I can get into that building, which connects to the metro, which means I can get blah, blah, blah. Like, it's nice to have that reference.
Yeah.
So we're excited about those
that
things. That
world-
growth corner.
It's
There are
that
a lot
world
of
building
growth.
shorthand, I think, is really
Yeah.
fun. It's often encouraged in role playing games to sort of, I mean, especially nowadays, I guess, to like really craft the location that you're in. And I think depending on the system, sometimes it comes down to the storyteller to say, okay, this is what the room looks like. And sometimes it's more collaborative storytelling. Oh, I'm going to grab the chandelier. There's a chandelier, right? You know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, having this shorthand of parts of the city that we're playing in is potentially
Well, sometimes it's like, you all enter the lobby of the Centaur Theater. And we can all go, amazing. I immediately turn right and head to the bar.
I go up the stairs and then to my left to get to the main theater.
and I turn around and leave because I'm not watching a play. Hey, no, nothing.
But you slip on the ice-covered stone steps and fall to the ground, and then you can't find your car.
Right.
Yeah, well, also you just keep sliding down the hill and then
Yeah.
into the
All the way
river.
down.
So,
We love our city, clearly.
yeah, we're very familiar with our city, and we hope to help you folks along with our very vibrant descriptions.
There are 2 cairns, or loci of spiritual power that Guru protect, that are starting out in this campaign. There may be other cairns in the city, but there are 2 that the player characters are aware of. That would be, the first one is the Cairn of the Weathered Storm. It's going to be located in, or on Mount Royal, which is the mountain that kind of rises out up from the center of the island of the city. Its cairn spirit is an avatar of Goose.
Love it.
However, recently that cairn has been suffered quite a few losses. So while it used to be a much grander cairn, it no longer is. It's the equivalent of a power level of 2 if we're looking at Werewolf 5th edition core. And the Guru who are there all share one thing in common. At one point or another, they've survived a terrible event where their allies fell, which is not all that uncommon for other Guru, but it is something that each of them has shared as they move forward for this particular cairn. There is, however, another one, and this one is on a man-made island that's just off of the main island of Montreal called Ile Notre-Dame, that was created when the Montreal Metro was built. They took all that earth and made an island out of it. This cairn is known as Downstream. Its cairn spirit is a thinking engine spirit, and while the inhabitants of Downstream believe that the tools to defeat Apocalypse haven't yet been created and they're working to do so, this is a cairn that is mostly made up of glasswalkers and bonars, whereas the other one is a bit more cosmopolitan. They've got plenty of internet access, and they're bunker-like cairn, as it's below where Expo 67 took place, which is actually now a rowing basin. It's North America's largest rowing basin.
That I did not know. That is cool, though.
So,
Ah, God.
Instead of a beach episode, we'll just have a rowing episode.
There's a beach on the island too.
Yeah.
You don't want the rowing episode?
I mean,
We're just gonna row by.
A lot more
But we have
arms
to do
show
this the
off,
whole
yeah.
time.
No, you have to do this. and you're
Yeah,
big Olympic
yeah.
rowing.
Oh,
Mr. Rich is actually asking, can you give us some information on what a cairn is or isn't? In fact, we can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Believe
we
it or
can.
not, we can.
Oh,
Yes, we
boo.
can.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Yes, we can. Wow.
Yay!
So a cairn is a place where spiritual energy is found in abundance. It is a place where Guru gather in order to meet in what they call moots. They perform rites there. They can consult with spirits. Generally, they're places of power that they have also decided that they need to maintain and protect. In fact, one of the Guru Nation's old laws is to protect cairns at any cost. So they have quite a bit of importance in Guru society. You might call them a social hub. We have another social hub that we'll be getting to a little bit later, but expect the player characters to spend some significant time at either or both of these cairns. Spud asks, are these the only cairns on the island or in the entire greater Montreal area? I will say no. There are other cairns. These are the 2 that the player characters are aware of and that they have some form of access to. But there are others. Maybe they're just somewhere else. They're just nowhere close.
Yes, I would say that cairns are vaguely the equivalent of changeling freeholds. They're gathering places with your own kind.
And they have like protectors and guardians, and they're sources of like power. Essentially, yeah.
Vague universal equivalent.
Yeah.
Mr. just asking, if they set up a physical location there, like a changeling's balefire, or are they just there? Cairns have a bawn, which is sort of like the area that is surrounding the cairn itself that is considered part of that cairn's territory. And then there is a heart of the cairn where there is kind of a more spiritual aspect to it. They don't have specifically something like a balefire necessarily, although there are and can be various talismans or setups that the guru there may create in order to identify and magnify the power of said cairn. But they can range in the way that they present themselves. It used to be that most cairns were like only in nature and that's it. In 5th edition, cairns are basically places of spiritual significance, whether or not that's in an urban area. It can be a floor of a building. It can be a glen located within a wood outside of the city. It can be, it can literally be a pond in a park somewhere. What matters is that it is a place of spiritual significance. And yes, the Gourd Whisperer is correct. Many Guru do live at cairns as opposed to a private home. It's very difficult for Guru to maintain a normal job. Their rage kind of gets the better of them at times. That's not to say that it's impossible, but many Guru having no source of income need a place to stay. So that's where cairns come in.
There you go. Makes sense. Excuse me.
And Clara of August asks, cairns are fully present in real space, unlike freeholds, right? Yes, they are. While the Umbra is sort of a reflection of the world, the spirit world that is a reflection of the physical world, where humans basically cannot access anyway, a cairn is fully in real space. So it's not like you enter into sort of a spiritual pocket to be in a cairn. The cairn is fully in the world itself, which is part of the reason why werewolves need to protect it. They do have spirits that they can use in order to bargain with them so that they may get additional protections, diverting techniques, making it so that humans either don't bother to look for them or can't find cairns, but they do have a physical reality.
Makes sense.
Cairns.
Cairns.
You know them, you love them, and we're about to love them a lot more, I presume.
Okay, before we hit on our characters, it's time to get some bookkeeping and some safety stuff out of the way, because we definitely take our safety pretty importantly here, which means I'm actually going to call upon one of you, because I've been doing an awful lot of talking recently.
Yeah.
Who wants to talk about our safety cards?
You were already reaching. You're you're raring to grow, bud.
Raring to go. Am I the right way around? Yeah. So we, as John says, we hold safety in high regard here on RPG Clinic. So we have these safety cards as tools to make sure that we can play our safest and therefore have the most fun. What do these cards do? What are they for? Oh, and I should say as well, of course, you in the chat don't have these cards, but you have options for your own safety, which I'll get to in a little bit. These cards are important. They allow us to communicate things. The green card, also known as the play card, says, hey, no matter how I look, I'm good to go. Everything is. Boom. Bilingual game. The yellow card, also known as the pause card, lets people around the table know I have something I need to make clear. Once the card goes down, play can resume. The red card, however, known as the stop card, means that we need to stop play for any reason. Because we're streaming, we would most likely go to a be right back screen. Once everybody's discussed and everyone feels safe and comfortable to continue, play can resume. As I mentioned before, of course, though, safety is important to everyone, not just the players around the table. But you don't have cards in the chat for your own safety, but you do have options in terms of keeping yourself safe. If you need to communicate with us, you can post in the chat. You can whisper RPG Clinic. We would see that all together. You can message a mod in chat today. We have Aragwen, we have Kung Fu Fenris. Yeah, I'm missing everybody. And we have various mods on duty at various times. And of course, an option that you can always exercise is that you can leave the stream or the chat for your comfort and safety. We don't want to see you go, but if you need to, that's the most important thing. So prioritize yourselves. All right? Good. Done. Thank you. No, of course, thank you.
Now, we also use other safety tools. Kate, you want to let us know what lines and veils are?
Yeah, so these are limits to things that you are willing to have inside of the game. Lines are things that you cannot tolerate happening. These are things that you do not want to see in your game sessions at all. Veils are things that sort of, they can exist, but they should happen off screen. Much like in many a Shakespeare play, they're like, oh yeah, this character is dead. It happened off stage, you didn't see it happen. They talk about the ramifications, but they don't show you all the bloody details. So those are the basics of lines and veils.
So we've already discussed what we're looking for in terms of our lines and veils, and specifically, we also want to make sure that we pay close attention to it because in Werewolf, we're dealing with some themes that we haven't necessarily come across or delved into deeply in our previous games. So some of our common lines that we have, sexual assault does not play into our games. We tend not to have violence directed towards, or at least we've specifically, there's a line in direct violence towards children, innocents, animals, and the like. As an abstract concept, that's fine, but not any kind of like specific. I hunted down a child and did bad things.
Yeah, like on the animal front, just to tack onto that, like we specifically, because that's been like a line of mine for many of our games. We talked about the notion of like, if you need to go hunting and you like go into the forest, that is fine. And then my request was just if you could say like, I went, I hunted, I brought back my kill, the end. Like just avoid describing. Exactly. Like that's
it's just that. We have a line specifically about things like, for instance, if one of you had a dog, that dog is safe.
Yeah.
It's not a non-combat. Or it's not a combatant. It's that's the thing,
I wrote it down as capital I innocence. We're werewolves. We will rage. There may be innocent bystanders, but they will always be adults of majority in situations where they can get themselves free. We are not going to be anywhere near elementary schools in our story, so that we're never at risk of raging out and hurting capital I innocence.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also have a very specific veil in terms of body horror. So while we are playing shapeshifters and werewolves can choose between one of 5 forms, we're not going to go into specific detail about how it feels or how it looks to make that change.
Yeah. Specifically, we're not going to talk about the act of the transformation, but yeah, okay, I'm now big and hairy and have teeth and claws. Of course, like the fact of being changed is great, but the specific details, not so much. I want to touch on gore, which I know has been sort of a line or a veil for a lot of our audience out there. I think it's been sort of a line and veil for us as well. But it's
a veil specific.
Yeah. In that this is a bit more of a vicious campaign. And so there are things, we will say things like, I rip their throat out. But that's where we end. We don't talk about any of the actual details thereof or the descriptors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As in, we may describe horrific acts of violence, but we are not going to overly describe. We're not going to
revel in the
extemporate.
Extemporate? Yeah.
Word.
I think it is.
Extemporate?
Isn't it?
Orangia.
Quick. As someone who knows English better than us Anglophones, like what?
Extemporize.
We'll revoke our Anglophone cards shortly.
There you go.
Yeah. We're not going to be doing gurgling noises.
Bombay.
Horrible things may very well happen in this campaign, but we're not going to revel in all the lurid details of such thing. I'll also point out while this is while we're talking about lines and veils, our games tend to involve a certain amount of romance and sex. We are well within the bounds of Twitch's terms of service.
Truth.
So we got that going for us. But we are not going to descend into the realm of pornography. But just be aware that we acknowledge the existence of romance and sex, and we do not shy away from it.
But should we also then, sorry, just to tack onto that, should we also make known, I assume it's in the book, although I actually didn't come across it, but the red rule, right? Perhaps we should touch on that.
You want to throw down on the red rule?
Yeah, I'm worried
It's
I'm
not
gonna...
in the book, but it's
okay.
something that we always adopt. So
Yeah, I'm worried I'm going to mess up the phrasing here, but essentially the red rule states that you cannot force another character to interact sexually in a way that they don't want to. It would automatically fail. Right, the player doesn't want to, thank you. And it would automatically fail. So there's a mechanical implication to doing something that a player does not want to do.
Doesn't matter what the dice or the book says.
Correct.
If the player doesn't want it doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's through social engineering, whether it's through the use of a supernatural power, whether it's just because Scott's just that attractive,
I can't
the
help.
player has to accept that this happens. Being seduced, being involved in a sexual situation, just a player can immediately say, no, this does not happen, and therefore it does not happen. This actually also extends to storyteller characters.
Yeah.
So I also have the ability to make that claim, and so we'll make those choices based on what we think will make the best story and our relative comfort levels. I feel like relative comfort levels should be our folk band name.
Oh, I love that.
Well, we wear cozy knits,
Oh, yeah, please.
chunky sweaters.
Yeah,
I'll learn the
a
banjo.
lot of the time, even with our safety cards, right? Like the storyteller has his set as well, because the storyteller is also a player. The storyteller's safety is just as important as everyone else's at the table.
This ain't no martyr game, yo.
I'm important.
Yeah.
Yay!
Folk punk. It can be folk punk. That works. We do have... Are we okay on safety then? For everybody here? So we also do have house rules. Don't have many to start, but this is a brand new game, and of course, there may be more added. One of the things that we're going to make sure of, though, is that when we have a house rule, you know what it is, or you know what they are. We don't have many, but here we have what we've got to start. First off, we are going to be dealing out experience at the rate of 4 XP per session to begin with. I reserve the right to discuss with you if we need to increase or decrease that level as we go forward. But I want to make sure that you at least can buy some stuff that you would like to buy, considering that we are planning for this campaign to go on for a long period of time, and there's plenty of XP sinks, but I also don't want all of you to get super powerful super quickly and feel like you haven't earned that power. Everybody is going to get the same amount of XP, no matter what. There will never be a point where a player will have more XP than another, whether it's because they've accomplished a story moment, whether it's because there's some kind of gift that is brought out in the future that for some reason grants you XP, which I really doubt they'll do. But, players will always have the same amount. We have done in the past where players have had varying levels because they could earn bonus XP, like for nominations for play or the like. We don't do that anymore because it's dumb.
Although it does, nominating players for awesome work factors into the gaining of XP. But as you say, John, it's not.
It
It's
just
not like
worked
someone
better
doesn't
for
get
us to keep everything consistent for all players.
Yeah,
at the table.
exactly. Exactly.
In fact, we basically handed out the same amount of experience at the end of the day. It just felt crappy when you weren't getting it, and it felt great when you were.
Yeah.
We also, this is what we're calling permissive rage economy. So if you have been involved in the Werewolf 5th edition discussions that are live on various places on the internet, you may notice that there's a few people who are doomsaying the game because they believe that there isn't enough rage to go around. The book is very clear that you should hand out rage as you want the game to feel. And if a player, one of my players, says they think they should gain rage, I will almost certainly say yes. So I encourage you, and I'll work on it myself, let's make sure that we've got the rage that we want in the game, right? that we're obviously going to run into situations where you will be threatened with losing the wolf, which happens if you hit 0 rage. But we also want you to feel like you get to use your cool stuff.
Makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's a resource that can be, if not spent, then sort of tested. We'll be getting into the weeds of this a lot more when we're playing. But yeah, the idea being that without a certain amount of rage, you may run into trouble using werewolf gifts. It's the resource that powers your werewolfedness.
Werewolfery.
Randy Hedgehog, just because of this topic, we now have actually developed these cards as an ability to be ordered. We'll try to see if we can get the storefront live soon. And by storefront, we mean just a place where you can order them. We're not taking any profit from these. We will have both American and international versions of these cards, just because of shipping. The place where you can order from the United States is great if you live there, and it's ass if you live anywhere else.
Right, sure.
But yes, that will become available. However, we also have print versions of these things and information online on our website.
That you can get to right there in the link I dropped in chat. That's rpgclinic.com/safety. Print your own. We also have Discord emoji for you to include. It'll all be at the very bottom of the page, but the whole page talks about our cards.
Perfect.
Which is a work in progress. It's not super pretty yet, sorry.
Printed in Charlottetown itself.
Charlottetown.
It's not, it's alive.
That's totally on Charlotte.
I'm not hating on it. I love
Anne of
Charlottetown.
Green Gables is the worm. I keep telling you.
Oh my god.
I'm so sorry. So that's a Canadian icon I'm slandering here in chat.
Yeah.
Can we take Aragorn's
I won't get
quote
to
and
work there again.
plaster that
Doing
across our page just in big old testimonial letters?
Yeah,
and slick.
actually,
They're
yeah.
so
Don't
nice to
blow away.
hold.
Yeah, Aragorn tested the American version of the cards because I wasn't shipping them here. That would have been
No.
oh.
You try these.
I really like the idea that you're holding a safety card and you can go, and it would just
RJ mentions, I think rage is part of why I like Werewolf. A game centered on anger speaks to me.
Respect.
yeah.
Amazing.
I think we're going to find out how much it speaks to all of us as we continue to play.
Well, just from our playlists. And stuff.
Yeah, actually, that's a good
We're
point.
going to be able to see it, right?
been a
Turns
big
out that every
ol'
character
mood.
will have their rage indicators available.
Hell yeah.
I tried to harm them in many ways.
Yeah.
So when rage happens, when people go up or down in rage, you'll know it. It'll be there on screen. Podcast viewers, if you're
Well,
only listening, sorry.
Yeah.
but we'll be talking about. I'm at 2 rage.
Yeah, we'll probably say it out loud as
I'm
well.
going up to 2 rage right now. Ta-da!
I am mentally dead.
Oh,
Nope.
Oh,
I guess it's time for us to start having a look at who you are.
who am I?
who are we?
We did a kind of a prelude, and by prelude we didn't play this out, but in kind of creating who these characters would be, we've got some information based on not just who the characters are and what's on their sheet, but also how they met and how they've interacted, which means that we're actually going to start off right in the center with you, Liz. Who is your character?
Okay. It's going to be a balancing act figuring out what to reveal at the start, but my character's name is Troyan. That is spelled Troian.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you hit the enter,
Yeah.
you want to zoom that to 150. I did not fix that after we
Pronouns.
restarted.
She, her. She is a Black Fury rune, because you can see it, so I'm going to say it out loud like we said it at the same time.
We'll totally said it at the same time. Yeah.
You keep going, please.
Yeah. I'm just. She is originally from London, and she followed a certain someone across the ocean to NYC, lived there for a little bit, and then moved to Montreal 6 months ago because she heard that there was a bar that needed new ownership, and she had been a bartender in London, in Oxford, in NYC, and she decided to take this on. She had to get out of the city. So she took over this bar, and she named it Bar Balthazar. It is based on the pub Le Sainte-Elisabeth, which is a real pub in Montreal, but we're using that for all of our like visual references and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's located in between the Quartier du Spectacle and the Gay Village. So there's like this little space of a couple of blocks. It's kind of sketch, which is great for us. And that's where it is. So the vibe of the bar, it's kind of run down, but it's got this like sort of cozy feel to it as well. They have sort of like thrown together event nights, like pub quizzes and karaoke nights and like indie showcase nights and stuff like that. And there was already an employee who was working at the bar when she took it over, and so that employee got to stay, and this person's name was
Macris. My character is a Ragabash as Auspice, Bonar as Tribe, so she, in her attempts to work with the odd hours that Guru tends to keep, has ended up as a barback, and was working at this bar before Troyan ended up taking it over. But yeah, she lugs heavy stuff, and we'll work morning shifts, late night shifts, whatever it takes. Her concept is activist. She has had odd jobs doing things like tree planting. Briefly was involved with Greenpeace, but every time she gets too deep into an organization, she gets frustrated with the lack of actual help that they're doing, or feels like they could be doing it better. And if she doesn't think she can solve it, she moves on and tries to put her efforts somewhere else. But a little while after things got settled here in the city with Troyan, not too long ago to when our campaign begins, someone came by and was speaking to Troyan, and it was clear that something was going on at her company. She worked for a big IT company in the city, and Macris went to check it out, and in looking into it, she got the vibe that there was involvement of the worm and possibly a spiritual aspect to it. Macris doesn't know what to do with that. Troyan didn't necessarily know what to do with that. So we ended up reaching out for some help in helping this woman named Clarissa. Regular human.
Regular, normal human Clarissa. That's right. Who is my kid? No. Which, of course, is the introduction of the third PC in the game, the character I'm playing, who is Dante. He, him, a glasswalker theurge. The concept, I should, just because I'm realizing we're using some terms, we're, again, in the clinic hours and in the book and online, you can find more information about what it means to be part of certain tribes or have a certain auspice. We're, I think, going to probably get more into that as well and find out how they interact with these characters individually, right? It's not just a broad brush. It means things to individual people. Dante was a corporate suit, essentially. He worked in cybersecurity for a very large sort of meteoritic rise, a company on a meteoritic rise I wrote this down somewhere. Oh well. They worked in, AI mapping and so on. So he would do a lot of white hat hacking, cybersecurity, etc. But with his first change, left it all behind and went rogue, and is now very much not a part of that lifestyle, very much raging against that lifestyle.
Against the machine, if you will.
He's raging against the machine, if you will. Although famously not, because glasswalkers do love a good machine. But as Kate mentioned, Dante was brought in as a theurge, would have more knowledge of the Umbra, of spirits in general, might have even interacted with some before, despite not being sort of like an elder guru, and went and brought his skills to bear for to help Clarissa. In terms of this prologue, essentially, Dante was able to use his technical skills to zero her, to erase her identity, so that then she could be smuggled out of the city and across the country. Macris, I believe, had contacts maybe
Out west.
tree planting, doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, one of the organizations desperately needed someone who understood what a computer was and how to send an email that made any sense. So it was a good job for our person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as Kate mentioned, the sort of source of the trouble that Clarissa had pointed to within this IT company was a Bane spirit that had taken over, possessed one of Clarissa's bosses. So these three, Chuckles here, had to go on their first mission together to deal with it.
Early on,
Oh, yeah.
I think the first of the events as we infiltrated, so there are a few moments that we highlighted as
Yeah, like plays of the game for
Yeah.
our character.
Macris early on saw some security people showing up and just glared at them and used the intensity of her guru spirit within her to scare them off and make them turn tail and run.
Troyan's skills lie in getting the victims to open up so that she can take revenge on their behalf. So she was the one who got Clarissa comfortable when she first came into the bar and just got her to explain her situation and got enough information and became determined to act on it.
And after they had infiltrated or found their way inside this IT company, and the Bane-possessed boss barricaded himself inside a panic room, it was Dante who used his technical skills to get them inside this panic room, where the Bane was subsequently dealt with.
Torn to shreds.
Most likely.
Taken apart.
The correct way to get rid of a Bane.
Correct. And I think
Yes.
so
Dealt with appropriately.
the three of us, whether or not that makes us an official pack, have now worked together, have gained some, maybe not notoriety, but respect in the eyes of certain people in the community. There's at least one elder who was, watching their progress on this work.
I think the contact who put our two PCs in touch with you was sort of surveying our progress to see how we would do together.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
I mean, with that all being said, let's just get a little bit more, just for people who don't know, because you'll see that there's some odd symbols above all your heads. I mean, we can show mine. I'm going to start with mine, actually. I don't actually belong to a tribe. I'll be playing a whole bunch of other things. I have the Galliard symbol close to my name, which is the gibbous moon, or almost full moon. And that's there just because the gibbous moon represents the storytellers, the moon dancers, the guru who are about spreading stories, about singing the songs of those who have come before and those who are here now, and that which will come into the future. I mean, funnily enough, I am actually, if we count by when I was born, like previous editions of Werewolf, I am a Galliard.
Oh,
So
there you go.
There you go.
Know that.
So it sort of fits for me as well. Kate, let's talk about macros for a second. What's your auspice?
I'm a Ragabash, that is the new moon. I do not have their verbs written down, but they tend to, they're a little more in the, I'm having trouble separating the two, the auspice and the tribe, so I don't want to say the wrong thing about the wrong one.
No, of course.
Okay. I come in with
The fact.
the book,
Aw, shit.
because that's what we have. So the
Very
Ragabash,
nice art.
the Ragabash are the tricksters of Guru Society. They're the ones who challenge traditions. They're the ones who are, they mock. They are also experts in making sure that they can trick, misdirect, mock, and sneak.
So it's going to be perhaps not all of those verbs at all times, but definitely it is against pushing back against what people claim, trying to get to the truth of the matter.
So if the auspice is what you do,
Yeah.
then let's talk about why you do. You are a bone gnar.
Yeah. So the Bonars, I can talk about the band. So the rat is their patron spirit. Patron spirit, that's the term?
Yep.
It's patron spirit. And one of the things they do is that they work to give the disadvantaged a leg up. They are often the overlooked, and they watch out for the others who are overlooked. So that ties in a lot to my character's involvement with activism and stuff. But Macris isn't afraid to be overlooked. She revels in it. She likes fading into the shadows. Not to sneak up on people per se. It's more, don't give me a second glance. And maybe I'll get around to making sure you do. You regret overlooking me. But maybe I'm okay to just walk on by and not get noticed.
So the verbs that they've chosen for bone gnars, as Mistrich has pointed out here, infiltrate, pilfer, eavesdrop, witness. Now, Elizabeth, we've also got Troyan here. Troyan is an Arun Black Fury.
Yeah.
What's an Arun?
So that is under the full moon, correct? Arun are very much warriors of Gaia. They are, I would see, quite comfortable with violence, which plays nicely with my justice-seeking Black Fury character. Any other keywords that you want to throw in from the book, I would love to hear.
Sure. So Arun can be expected to fight, attack, destroy, charge,
Goddamn.
into a fray.
Right.
As warriors, they are they wreck shit out. They tear out throats, but they may also be involved in planning attacks. To be fair, also all Guru are expected to fight. It's just that the Arun, that's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's the thing they do. And you're a Black Fury.
Yes. Yeah. And the type of Black Fury that I wanted to create was somebody who was very good, as I mentioned before, very good at getting the victims to be comfortable with her and open up to her about their problems. Tell me your life story. Who hurt you? What's their name? Where do they live? Like that kind of thing. And then fully goes and deals with it.
Yeah.
In her preferred manner, which is quite violent often. And if she determines that it's better to have this person eliminated entirely from society, she sees that as doing Gaia a service. Yeah.
Keywords for Black Fury: liberate victims from oppressors, overcome the oppressors, dismantle that which has blocked victims from being able to flourish, and demolish those who will stand in your way.
Yep.
Scott, you are a Theurge.
That's right. That's right. My Dante's auspice is Theurge, born on our first change under the sign of a crescent moon. That's right. Theurges are the mystics of Guru society. They're traditionally called upon to know about the Umbra, about the spiritual realm, and dealings with spirits. Yeah, so they might be expected to control or command spirits or summon them. Might be expected to sort of perform rites in Guru society as well. But spirituality, as we know, it can cover a wide swath, right? Not all people who practice religions or spirituality act in the same way.
And something that's very specific for you, though, is that you're playing a Glasswalker.
That's right.
A tribe that is has some significant differences in outlook from the others. What is that exactly?
Yeah, the Glasswalkers are. I mean, I'm absolutely drawn to them anyway, and I think there was a question which we'll probably get to, which is like, well, you know, where'd your characters come from and all this. But Glasswalkers as a tribe are invested in the tools of humanity, the tools of society and creation. They perform feats of technology, of creation, and perhaps sometimes use that to even sabotage or undermine, but it's often about crafting or building. A lot of other Guru might look upon the Glasswalkers generally with a bit of suspicion, because to create and to maintain is often the job of the Weaver. John mentioned ages ago, like the Wild, the Weaver, and the Worm as the triad. And Guru are not agents of the Weaver. They're agents of the Wild. So it feels a bit like there's some suspicion there sometimes. Yeah.
So your interaction with spirits is going to be a bit different, because the way and in the manner in which you might do so might be a bit alien to the other tribes.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be an interesting...
I'm really looking forward to not figuring that out, but finding that during play as well. See what fits, see what works, and see what everybody else kind of brings to the table, and like collaborate to make it cool. Yeah.
We've had a couple of questions come in about your characters already. So I hope, if I haven't caught them, remember you can always ask them again. You can also use exclamation mark of the letter Q and then a space, and then it'll automatically pop up for me. But the first one coming in from Power Vargas is we'll do a British accent character voice.
Yes, and full disclosure, I am specifically I'm not specifying a region, a specific dialect that I'm trying to hit. This is going to be more of a general, probably leaning far more RP than she should. I appreciate y'all's patience and understanding, but this is a challenge that I set for myself, and I'm excited.
All right.
Yeah.
Clark August also asks, is the gay village meant in the old or the new meaning of the word, or did I just mishear something in French?
It's a queer village. It's where it was traditionally a place where a lot of LGBTQ individuals settled, and that's where a lot of the pride festivities occur. But mercifully here, they don't all have to live in one place anymore.
Although they had the best, like along one of their main streets, they had the rainbow kind of awnings.
Yeah.
Throughout like shit. Kilometers of space. Oh, it was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Swaths of the summer, that part of the city is blocked to traffic, so it's pedestrian only, which is also wonderful to just walk around.
It's a great neighborhood.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Very interesting question from Luke here. Will the RPG Clinic fan wiki be used again if we need a quick refresh on characters?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. Hell yeah.
And
Is
you
it
all can
set up right now?
contribute.
No.
And but yeah.
We'll do what we can, but
Yeah.
a lot of what makes the wiki what it is the assistance that we've had from community members who have done their part in helping to update it. We'd really appreciate it if we could still have that from you, but we'll definitely give you a start so that we can do that. But just as a reminder, it's the usefulness of that resource is based on the effort that everybody puts into it, not just us. Because we have some time to help, but not all the time. Going back into earlier questions, so the Gourd Whisper asks, which tribe is each of your favorites? And compared to older editions, which do you think is the most improved? So I'm going to start with the first question. Did you pick your favorite tribe for your character?
Ooh. That is a good
It's
question,
totally
honestly.
fine if you didn't.
Yeah.
I think I really think the Ghost Council are fucking cool.
Hot.
I knew I wasn't gonna play a member of the Ghost Council, but like I just think they're fucking cool, and I cannot speak to the old versions anyway. So
I'll answer the old versions.
Great.
I'm not going to ask.
No, for sure.
I was reading with a focus on figuring out what I wanted to play. I don't think I have a favorite yet. I'll probably develop one as we play.
And then just die so that you can make a new character.
Oh boy, now I get to play as Shadow Lord. Yeah!
Sweet.
Kate really likes the Shadow Lord.
Oh yeah, it's such
The
a great
tribe
name. It doesn't make me cringe at all.
I think I also similarly to Kate. I feel like I was actually drawn more to other tribes, like personally, in terms of a favorite. There were a couple that really stood out to me as like, holy shit, that's so cool. But then the more I thought about what I wanted to play, the more I was like, step aside, it's got to be a Glasswalker. Like,
Out of
it
my
has to
way.
be. Yeah, exactly. Out of my way, I'm walking on glass here, you know?
Which tribe's my favorite? I mean, look, when it comes to me and choosing splats, it's very difficult because I get to play them all. When I'm a storyteller, I get to just do whatever I like, which is kind of fun, which means that I don't have to pick. I have always been a fan of the Silent Striders, and I'm interested to see how they're different here in this edition compared to previous editions, as they've changed quite a bit. One of the things is that all of the tribes in former game versions were also tied to regions or cultures. Silent Striders famously were werewolves from Egypt who could no longer go back to Egypt because they pissed off Set, who in
As you
Vampire,
do.
right,
Oh.
was one of the antediluvians. But the key is that now they aren't. They are no longer coupled to culture or location. They're coupled to outlook and belief. So I'll be interested to see how that changes. The tribe that I think has improved the most are the Red Talons. Funnily enough, Red Talons in previous editions of the game, you had to be a Wolfborn character, no others, and you basically just wanted to kill all the humans, and that was what you were.
Sweet.
The Red Talons still have a feeling like the world needs to kind of go back to basics, that we need to tear down modern stuff. So they're kind of, to some degree, they're sort of diametrically opposed to Glasswalkers in some ways, but they're now no longer just a tribe that's focused on one thing and in one way with one kind of guru. So I really do like how the Red Talons have changed in this. They still feel like Talons, but now it feels like you could choose to play one and it wouldn't be overly disruptive to do so. One of the things that's difficult when it comes to all kinds of player characters is you don't want to get into a situation where one of your characters warps the game so far that it's just like, oh, well, what? I guess we're always focusing on you now. And I found like Red Talons could warp games pretty significantly because they just didn't want to deal
Scott's
with
picture is wrong. I'm so sorry,
Oh.
folks. No one caught it. I'm so sorry. It's
it's
been
okay.
wrong for like 3 months.
Oh, shit.
He is a Glasswalker, not a Silent Strider.
Oh, thank you. I'm not
That
even
is
sure.
on me. That is literally on me.
Oh,
no,
worries,
that's-
Kate. I'm not
That's
even sure
left
where the
over
image
for when I was using placeholders from John's NPCs from another game.
Ah, okay. Cool. I wasn't even sure where that
Well, part of it
image
is that they also changed the glyphs for all of the...
Yeah, okay, well, that would do it, yeah.
Which is why I didn't notice.
Well, that's it. Like, it was kind of like when we were swapping from EX3 to Essence. There were enough things that stayed the same, but then enough little changes and then some big changes. And you were kind of trying to calibrate
Yeah.
where those fell.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, it's Red Talons. Just because they're very different, but honestly, a lot of them are. Flower of August has asked, how would you rate your interest in Werewolf 5th on a mechanics versus themes and setting scale? Like 50-50, skewed one towards the other?
That's a good question.
I mean, we've done a couple of practice rolls with the mechanics, but like we haven't played it. So we'll have to give our impressions as opposed to our direct feelings.
I mean, I'm interested in both. I love the simplicity of 5th Ed so far, since we're coming mostly from 20th edition. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm slightly more interested in the themes and setting than the mechanics, but that's just because I'm still in the intimidated by the mechanics phase. Even though they're like pretty simple, there are some things that my brain is still struggling with, and it's gonna take a few like actual sessions, practice rolls, all of that, when to do like the rage check with the bigger pools and when to do it, like little things like that. But I think it's gonna shift.
Yeah,
for the better
as
we go.
keep
Yeah,
playing, it's gonna just become second nature, right?
Exactly.
And I think I would probably push that even further. I think for me, I mechanics are a way to support the feeling of a character that I want to try to inhabit. So, when this was proposed as a possible game for this channel, and when we started doing our reading and exploration, I really got big into the themes of Werewolf Fifth, which I think are really awesome. And then from there, as has been said already, the relative simplicity of the mechanics is supporting that and seems cool, but I want to see them in action before I talk more about that. Although I will say, we're not going to talk about them today, but I picked up one gift in particular that I'm like, this is the coolest fucking thing. And I love it.
Oh my god, yeah.
So,
I mean, when it comes to the mechanics, thankfully we've been kind of playing around with them because we do have the ability to show off various parts of the stats. So up at the top, what do we have?
We have health,
Health
where
at the
you can
top.
take superficial damage or aggravated damage.
ooh.
So we'll be able to keep track of that. At the bottom, so below your names, what do we have over there?
We have our is that our willpower track?
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Yeah, our willpower track. So when you're taking like mental damage / emotional damage kind of thing, you can take ag and you can take supplemental. Same deal.
Superficial. I keep trying.
Oh,
it's
sorry,
superficial.
superficial,
So yeah,
not supplemental.
And then what's at the right there, Scott?
That, my friend, is the rage tracker. If you ever go to 0, you've lost the wolf. But rage generally only gets bigger.
Well,
or
when it goes down.
when it goes down. Right. Because it can also. It's a good.
So they're asking, is Macro supposed to have one more health level? And the answer is
yeah, and we all have different willpower amounts as well.
Pretty cool.
Your health is based on your stamina. Your willpower is a combination of your composure and your resolve. Yeah.
Yeah.
there's more.
But wait.
There's more.
There's more. I mean, one of the things that all werewolves have to be aware of is that they have access to different forms. So the forms that we can run through, how about, Kate, you want to run through your forms?
Yeah, I can be Glabro, which is the were-human. You're bigger, you're more monstrous, but you aren't full-on werewolf. When you're full-on werewolf, you are Krynos or Krinos. We're accepting both pronunciations in this campaign. And as you may have noticed, you get 4 extra health levels when you switch forms. Then you can go down to Hispo, which is like a dire wolf. Monstrous form of wolf, and then there is Lupus, which is wolf form.
It's just so stinking cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Of course, if you are in... there's another aspect in which you might hit Krinos. So why don't you go into Krinos for me? But then what happens if you frenzy?
Oh, well, then you go to 5 rage, and you're frenzying. So you'll see that, boop, my auspice and tribe are flashing red to show that I'm frenzying. Then when you're done, you lose.
As the name implies, a frenzy is, generally pretty destructive. You're trying to kill and destroy things. I think that's...
Is there a piece of music that runs in your head when you think of frenzy? Because for some reason, and it's not really that appropriate, but I just hear Dragula from Rob's song.
That's amazing. And it's got the right energy.
It does,
Even if the
yeah.
lyrics aren't necessarily.
I think it's Chop Suey for me.
and
That's good.
it's the fucking Chateau fight from the Matrix Reloaded. Actually, no, is it
To
the...
be fair, Dragula was in the first Matrix.
That's
Aragorn,
right.
same brain.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
Incredible.
That is exactly it.
Incredible.
Nothing's wrong
Bodies.
with me. 2. Nothing's wrong with me. 3. Something's got to give.
Okay,
Something's got to give.
right.
Something's got to give. 4. Hey, Mickey from Lollipop Chainsaw.
Amazing.
Nice.
It's fair. It's super fair.
Amazing.
So you'll be able to help. You'll be able to see how our characters are doing at any one point in time just by checking that out. We won't always have it available, just in case it's seen that we don't necessarily have to show that off. We do have the ability to also throw down some information about certain characters that people may or may not encounter in our game. Setting information as well. There's so we'll have the ability to show that to you if you're tuning in, and by all means, of course, you can always ask of our mods, and also other people in the chat are very helpful, and they'll be able to fill you in on anything that you may or may not have missed. There will be recaps at the start of each session so that you'll be able to catch up on what has previously happened. And of course, you can always join our Discord to talk about current episodes. We even have a spoiler channel where you can tinfoil your way to victory at all times. There's a couple of things that we're holding on to so that we'll be able to, show you when we actually get into it. We don't want to spill all of our secrets, but we've got a whole bunch that we'll be able to show you while we play.
Hell yeah.
And then sometimes we have a warning that shows that we are dealing with mature situations, language, sex, and violence.
Which is a little less like cutesy and funny than I think when we were using it during Avatar to be like, tee like this is a Nickelodeon show, but we're fucking, as opposed to this, which is like, yes, this game is for mature audience. Actually, yes.
Yes. Do your characters already have D names?
Oh, we did discuss potential ones. I don't know.
Yeah, I had two possibilities. I'm comfortable with sharing both. I don't know.
But I wonder if we should, if
maybe
we don't have them. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, like...
I think that's going to depend, because the option was that the players could either start play without them and then earn them in-game, or if you want, you can honestly have them available as you see fit. So maybe we'll hold off on revealing them for now, and we'll discuss what we want to do with that.
Perfect.
This is Nickelodeon show, but we have fucking
Scoots.
Not this, but you know.
Orangia also asks, is it difficult to play in a setting that you know so intimately because you might lose track of what exists in the game world and what exists outside? Not that you can't tell the difference, more like it might be difficult to remember where they diverge.
This was asked when we were talking about setting in Montreal.
Right. Man, I went out to get milk and then the cairn wasn't there. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, whoa. I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I think the World of Darkness elements that we're sort of like placing on top of the city, if our experiences sort of taught me anything, it's just that they tend to overlay quite well with what we already know of the city, and it makes sense. There's a certain logic to it, even if it's internal within us, within this group. So no, I mean, I don't think that would be difficult.
I have made peace with the fact that I'm going to be naming things incorrectly left, right, and center. And I'm just going to, like, the fact that we're in Montreal at least means I can commit to the city lingo. And then John will be like, so the werewolf lingo is this. I'll be like, great. Write that down and apply for next time.
It is important to note, remember, we have a mixture of werewolf knowledge here. Some people have been involved in the game for a very long time. Some people, it's kind of brand new. So this is how we're going to play. And if that's going to be an issue for you, then I feel sorry for you.
Should be fine.
But I will say we aren't making any huge changes to how the city works. Like, we're adding, this bar is actually where we hang out, and this place actually has this extra thing. We aren't like, this neighborhood is a crater, and this metro
Avengers Tower is right next to the Sunlight building.
It's actually called, Moonbase.
Moonbase!
Stuff like that.
Incredible.
So it's not so difficult in that sense to keep different, but you'll probably occasionally see us in our Discord being like, haha, I just went past location in game.
Yeah, that's actually, yes, that's
I
definitely
fully
one of my
intend
favorite pastimes for sure.
to go drink at the Saint Elizabeth.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I wanna go with.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're gonna do it.
We've also had a question from our Discord. Gilligood asks, will we see real-world companies and events in-game? For example, will characters be affected by real-world policies? Did COVID happen in this universe? It's a streamed game, so we're probably not necessarily going to avoid mentioning real-world companies and the like, but I kind of doubt that real-world companies will be specifically singled out as, like, the bad guys any more than they already are. I mean, I don't mind blasting Twitter.
Don't you mean X?
No, I do not.
I'm dating exactly when this happened for anyone coming back to us many years.
Oh my god, yeah, 10 years from now, people will be like, what?
But so the game itself uses Pentex as kind of a shorthand for this, and we'll likely use that just because there's a certain amount of like, we are putting this out there in public online where it will exist in perpetuity, and I'd rather not blast a company that may or may not deserve it. But did COVID happen in this universe? Thankfully, this game is set after COVID, so I think we can say, yeah, it did.
I think so, because when we were playing, when COVID hit, we were playing a Changeling the Dreaming campaign. We were set in Montreal, we were set in real time, and it was too real for us. I think it was too real for everyone, but particularly us, as we often dabble in or fully work in live events, which were the first to shut down and the last to reopen. So it was just definitely way too real for us to want to involve in our play. But I think it's an interesting theme to go with the worm and the sickness and Gaia's decay. But we can definitely double check after stream. So you will occasionally see us just say, oh, this thing that's in the news, it's not in our game, for our own safety.
Yeah. Yeah, a good rule of thumb on RPGClinic, as we all know, is that we're going to be communicating about these things both on stream and off, and you know, you'll benefit from what we decide about the game.
We don't necessarily retcon that often, but we absolutely will if we need to.
Yes, for sure.
100% all the way through this. If something happens that we decide isn't fun, it will change. Our number one goal is safety. Our number two goal is fun. And if anything gets in the way of either of those things, it will not for much longer. Ellie Spot asks, is this the version of the world where Mount Royal is an active volcano?
100% yes.
This is, of course,
What?
the lead-in to Liz's famed one-shot. You wake up in an active volcano.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is...
The Cairn is literally on the mountain. You want to say that's an active volcano?
It's,
kind of an active volcano, yeah.
It's on the non-runny downside.
Non-runny downside.
West side of Mount Royal. Oh, God. The oratory. Oh, it's all
Oh my god.
Oh, fuck. A very small one, Miss Dredge.
My Flow asks, I for one would be disappointed if we don't get a bit of the story of how our lovely players, oh, you're lovely now.
Oh.
Step up.
Characters they did. What choices were hard, which were easy, what clicked right away, and what took more work? So I'm going to ask, settling this down, what was the hardest part about picking your characters? And we can also have a look at your sheets. We kind of glossed over that because we were going through your prelude, but we can take a look at that as well. This Cairn's on fire! Literally!
Without...
Oh my god!
Oh shit, run! Without being too, whatever the word is, without being too annoying about it, honestly, my name was the hardest part of this character sheet. We all had many discussions, and in fact... Kate came up with, if I may, a brilliant suggestion of Will I Hard. It was like a name generator or whatever.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious. But no, I just like, naming a character, especially as as the book states, the guru after their first change can take on a name. Whether or not that's a deed name, whether or not that's a name that's, in reference to you, whether or not that's in reference to the name you had before, you make a choice. So, unlike in certain settings or systems, we're not limited in any way. So how do you encapsulate what your character is about in a word or several, right? It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard. I really used the Auspice and Tribe as like a jumping off point for character history and like backgrounds, merits, flaws, all that sort of thing. But as John will attest as well, I definitely did some dot moving around. So another somewhat difficult part of this character creation for me was the fact that in 5th edition, as opposed to a point buy system where you get a certain number of points that you distribute as you will, instead you're given an array of points that you must distribute in a certain way. So you must take 1 in an attribute and a 4 in an attribute. And then there are different spreads of points for skills as well. So I had to make some tough choices about attributes and skills, and like it didn't feel the strategic part of my brain was kind of like, fuck, like if I don't do this, I'm so screwed. Yeah, and it ended up in a larger discussion about like, what does a theurge do? You know, is it useful to have a 1 in this pool, and therefore you can't succeed at certain tasks, you know, or whatever. Which is anyway, that's fun. Yeah. Those so a couple things were really easy and like great jumping off points, then a couple things were a lot more challenging and resulted in a bit of hair pulling. But yeah.
Elizabeth, what was tough for you?
So similarly, the skills were very difficult to figure out, and also determining which advantages and flaws I wanted to take, and the rights. The attributes were probably the easiest ones, because how I approached this character, even before I'd read anything about the system, is I was just like, I'm going into this with high manipulation.
Great, done.
Whatever my character is,
Gosh.
that's gonna be like her highest attribute. And then I just built her out from there. And then like her backstory started coming together after I read the book more. And so yeah, the attributes kind of like fell into place, and this idea of the bar and all of that. But yeah, it was everything else. Like the attributes were just like dee, 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 and then everything else was just like, oh no. But yeah, ultimately it did come together nicely. I'm happy with it.
Kate?
Dots. I'm still not settled. I'm still not sure that they're gonna stay where they are. I feel like my 2s and 3s can switch places a lot. My 1s and 2s can switch places. Like, I think I know which skills I do want to have access to, but I knew who the person was, and Ragabash and Bonar were the strongest fits from the start. There were a few other options and configurations that were potential, but it was definitely where I was most likely to be going. So I knew who they were, and I knew the gifts jumped out at me pretty quickly. I had 2 rights that I was interested in. Merits, again, I'm pretty sure with my merits. I'm a little less certain with my flaws. And I think that's mostly to do with the system, and that a lot of the flaws feel like they will constantly distract from the story every session.
Constantly what?
Yeah, but, you know, one of the things, like addiction, it's every scene you have to do something with your addiction, and that's just, to me, that gets, it's not like, oh, well, this is a flaw, it has to affect me, like, I'm down with that, but it just, to me, it would distract from the story too often in a way that
Like it's kind of hoggy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a spot that was a bit of a struggle. I think I've settled in a good place, but, yeah.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Stuff that was, I mean, I know that this wasn't necessarily directed at me. The difficult part for me when I was going through creating NPCs and the like is just making sure that I'm not pulling in legacy stuff. We're giving this game a fair shake, right? I don't want to start immediately house ruling and pulling in, well, I don't like the way that they've changed Silent Strider. Say I'm going to do it the old way. Like we're giving this a new shake. So as a result, when I was creating NPCs, there were some times where I just had to make sure that I would check and be like, oh, what is it that we've done specifically with this tribe now? What's the check? What's the what is the I'm losing my audience.
I'm really sorry, I have to pee.
Where are we going with this so that it is new and interesting, but also still faithful to 5th edition, because that's the edition we want to play. So that was where I was encountering not necessarily like, you know, hardship, but it was the part that made me stop and take a moment and go back more than once, just to make sure, because I think that it's very easy for me to start thinking of like, well, clearly I know about, for instance, in Werewolf 5th, they don't talk about formal challenges, which is a big part of previous games. And I do think that that's something that we may end up seeing evidence of. Whether every character believes in it or not is another question, because that's a vestige of the old Guru Nation. But like that I can potentially bring in. I don't want to bring anything that contradicts, right? That's the key. And I do think, much like the Chord Whisperer is mentioning here, there is some trepidation when it comes to some mechanics. I definitely want to try them before I start to alter them. I'm a game designer by trade. It's in my nature to want to dive into mechanics and tweak and all that. I don't want to do that here. I want to try it first, because I do think, and this is with no shade meant to direct to anybody, I do think that there is an attachment to the previous games, and I think that attachment is born out of remembering, this is what I used to be able to do, this is how the game used to work for me, and because now things will be different, there's sometimes a reaction that says the game is wrong. What I think is actually more important is to say, is it the game that's wrong, or is it that you want to play the game differently? Which is a completely legitimate choice. The book itself does a very good job of saying, change what you need to, like most role-playing games, right? Like, have fun. But I want to give this game a shot. So that's where we're going with that right now.
Yeah, for example, like rage is a big one, and as we mentioned, we're going to be generous with rage, but that's also sort of an option that is offered by the book. I know some people are saying, oh, I'll just do it like hunger, it'll be negative, I'm just going to reverse it. But I think we played Exalted quite a few times, and that has a system of stunting where if you describe what you do in a cool way, you get 1 or 2 or 3 extra dice or various configurations and various versions of the game.
Right.
So to us, we're used to a system whereby we have to remember to take an extra step in order to get something that should be relatively easy. You should be able to get a stunt on most of your rolls in Exalted, and we're going to play it similarly, that as long as you know it makes sense, you should be able to get rage.
Yeah, when you want to.
But yeah, we want to try the game as it is, and while mindful of what we're concerned about. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just, sorry,
Yeah.
It's sort of tangential, but I feel like it's in the same realm, which is about, I just want to, I think it's interesting to point out like the history that we have as a gaming group, right? Going from Exalted 3rd, Changeling 20th, and then through several other games to what we just came off of, which was a Powered by the Apocalypse Avatar Legends campaign. Like when we started playing together, I think we were rolling 15 to 20 d10s. Avatar Legends rolls 2d6. It's like, it's just an incredibly, I know that numbers of dice do not equate to more or less fun. I mean, generally, obviously you do you, some people it is, some people it doesn't. But that to me is a great example of, oh man, like, am I gonna have as much fun? I'm not rolling as many dice. Yes, I am. You know, there you go.
Yeah.
Again, that feels to me like a way of summing up my feelings on the subject anyway.
So I actually get to roll dice. In all of Avatar, I didn't get to roll a single die because
Yeah, well, that's not how it works, but you must be excited to go.
I mean,
back
I have dice. I have my standard, like, these are the storyteller dice that I've always used. These are actually Exalted First Edition dice.
Hell yeah.
Which I still use. But now I also get to add Werewolf dice, and I have my OG Werewolf dice bag. Unfortunately, they're not OG Werewolf dice in there. They were stolen, believe it or not, a long time ago. But I do still get to have my special colored dice in order to indicate rage. So we have that available to me as well. So I get that. I get to enjoy that. I also get to enjoy the fact that I now have an RPG Clinic dice bag.
Yay!
And you don't.
Aw,
It's true.
sorry, everyone.
Nin asks, how much drama will we see? For example, are the touchstones more of a resource for the characters, or is it more about putting the touchstones in danger or potentially losing them?
That's such a good question. I was just looking today at what the mechanical advantages bestowed upon Guru for having touchstones. I guess just to be clear, touchstones are the people in a Guru's life that most likely don't know about their Guru nature, probably, but are literally, I guess, a touchstone for their humanity. It's a way for them to go and be reminded of what it's like to be human and to sort of be able to perhaps reduce the amount of rage that they're feeling at any given time, or recover some willpower, or switch Harano and Hoglosk.
Yeah.
That's a word. Write that down.
Yeah.
But are they more of a resource, or I mean, I think, as always on this channel, we're going to be treating them like characters, like non-player characters to be sure, but they have their own goals, their own motivations, things they may or may not choose to do, which may or may not put themselves in danger or be put in danger.
But I will say, I don't think we're ruling out the possibility of them being put in danger or being lost, and I think that the book sort of frames them that way. So for us, definitely, I believe we're making sure that our touchstones aren't characters that would cross a line for us to get put in harm's way. None of our touchstones are 5-year-old children. They will not be. Even if it would make perfect sense, our character has a child, they would theoretically emotionally be a touchstone. We're just not going to do that so that mechanically we aren't blocking a facet of the game by so doing.
That's fair. Good point.
I think that the way that I would answer this question, you'll definitely see drama. Whether or not it's the touchstones is actually still a question mark. It kind of depends on what the characters and what the players engage with. So if we enter into an arc where, you know, the three of you have to travel to another city, and then that city, you know, you have to go dark on communications because you have, you know, like you're taken away from technology, or from civilization or whatever, then that would imply that touchstones are no longer something that directly matter, at least for that section. So it's sort of a balance. The game gives a lot of different ways for you to pull levers in terms of narrative and emotional reactions, and we'll see which ones work for us.
I will say, though, just from my personal experience creating a character in Werewolf 5th, we've played in a lot of different systems and so on, but this is the first time for me that I've actually kind of quote-unquote had to sketch out so many relationships with the other PCs. You're called upon to name 1 to 3 touchstones as part of character creation. Quite a few of the advantages, like the backgrounds and flaws, are people or other gurus, so that's something else that you probably want to flesh out so that you know what those dots actually represent on your sheet. And not to mention the fact that the ST will be playing NPCs, lots of them, and in fact some of which we've, you know, had a little bit of background on already, which is fabulous.
Orangia has asked, and we sort of touched on this, but we'll come back to it. What are you looking forward to the most, plot-wise, drama-wise, otherwise?
Ships, right? Romance, presumably. We're all here for.
It's always exciting to see what shapes up there.
Choo choo.
I'm excited to be back in Montreal.
Yep.
To dive into this new system with these like new and exciting themes.
Yeah.
There's some excellent parts to this system that I'm very much looking forward to. The combat feels like it'll be much more streamlined compared to other storyteller system combat, which can be charitably described as cumbersome.
So charitable.
Go down from 4 rolls per action to, you know, 2 rolls max per action.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty
you know,
nice.
and some actions, if you're directly opposed, you don't have to do it twice. You just have to do it once.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, it's pretty nice. So that I'm PC to PC ship combat. Let's go. I mean, ship combat is in like on ships, or ship combat is in they're both going after the same.
Oh shit.
interest?
Oh shit.
Because these two have a history of doing that.
Oh, I was like, wait, I don't think our characters
No, I
have a
went like
history.
this.
Yeah. No, I
They
understand.
might.
Yeah, wow.
Of
You never know.
approaching, of courting
Yes.
the same NPC.
It's actually very true.
Look, we apparently share a type.
What can I?
Done.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. No offense.
Which of the werewolf forms has your favorite favorite vibe? Tribe. Which of the werewolf forms has your favorite vibe? Mine is Hispo, but I love them all this edition. I will say that this edition does a much better job than previous editions of making all 5 forms interesting and useful.
Yes.
Hispo is the dire wolf form,
Yes.
and Glabro is the half werewolf, half human form. Krynos or Krinos is the full werewolf form.
I don't know why, but something about Glabro really excites me. Maybe it's just watching like an American Werewolf in London or whatever. I don't know. Something about the what it means to transition from human to monster, for lack of a better word, right? This sort of war form is very, very, very cool. I think that's also me thinking about my PC from the perspective of being a glasswalker. Glasswalkers being usually very at the human end of the human wolf spectrum, you know?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, they're all cool, and I think I'm excited by figuring out how each one not only works mechanically, but also how they feel vibe-wise. I think that's what I'm quite interested in. I'm absolutely taking notes on how to win over the NPCs.
Sexy stick.
Hey, look!
Rough.
New iPhone! Yeet!
Oh! Oh, fuck! Oh god! It's gonna.
When you mentioned Wind Whisper, that many gifts now you must be in one of the supernatural forms, so you cannot be in Hamid or in Lupus to use them. I think that was actually a solid choice on the part of the developers, because it does encourage the use of other forms, and it also means that using some of your gifts means that you're also putting yourself in a vulnerable situation when it comes to being discovered, which I do like as a trade-off to you being able to use some of your power. Not all gifts require this. Some gifts can definitely be used, and specifically in Hamid or in Lupus, but it is an interesting thing to be there too. Secret Babby.
What
do you think, Dante?
That's Aragorn pulling a real old card from back in the day. Lots of secret. Maybe this time Dante is the secret Babby. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, let me just rewrite my character's age. How old is your character? 20.
Plus 20. Very good.
Orangia asks, what about Werewolf specifically do you want to explore that other systems don't do, or perhaps don't do as easily?
Maybe I'm thinking of Avatar because that's what we just played. But like Avatar, while there was combat and stuff, it was more about neutralizing the enemy or finding other means of defeating them rather than like viciously tearing them to shreds. And this one has a lot more vicious tearing them to shreds. And sometimes I'm excited by games like that.
Although jokes aside, I agree wholeheartedly. What about Werewolf am I excited to explore? Fucking shit up. It's in the book.
Yeah.
You get to fuck shit up. I'm not playing a fuck shit up character, but I am, because I'm playing a werewolf. It's great.
We have been given loving flack in the past as the heroes folks, as in we're trying to do good, but we end up like fucking shit up. But now you can't make fun of us for fucking shit up.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to see. I'd like to see you try. Oh god.
I'm looking forward to. It's something that we're gonna like find the correct side of the line to ride, but the sort of reality of like Gaia is dying or has died, the sort of doom, the apocalypse has happened, and there are definitely elements of it that are a little too real that will be like, yeah, climate change is terrible and there are forest fires everywhere. Do we feel like tackling that in our game? We'll find out. But I still think that there are a lot of aspects of what the apocalypse is that'll be really interesting to tackle in game. And I'm excited to find that sort of, as much as this is a fantasy game where we're playing make believe, it's fun to tie the real world into it, like playing in the city that we know, in our time, like time and everything. So yes, but also wrecking shit.
Yeah.
Not real. I cannot rend a door off of a car myself. And but we.
Why are werewolves cool? Like, everyone knows werewolves are cool, but why do you think they're cool?
I think they're cool because they have a drive. Like, it's the passion and the rage that, like, pushes them forward. And whether that doesn't manifest as them necessarily being angry all the time. It can be, like, bubbling under the surface, but it's something that pushes them forward because they were chosen by Gaia for a reason. And I really like that because it means that when you're kind of at a loss for what to do in, like, if you start a session and you're asked, like, what's your character going to do today? You're thinking about it, but, like, you can always lean on this drive that they have. Mm-hmm. What can I do for Gaia? You can go for it.
Just do that, yeah. I think they're cool because they can shapeshift. Like, that's an innate ability, and I just think that's well, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? And, like, I have my go-to answers to that question. But I think something that would be very cool is the ability to change one's form, I'm really looking forward to the storytelling and role-playing opportunities of playing a shape-shifting character.
And to jump off of that, the idea that, you're just walking around as a normal human or possibly a normal wolf, and... surprise, I'm not what you think I am. You've judged the book by the cover, and you are completely wrong.
And now you are fucked.
Yeah.
I'm not trapped in here with you.
Orange, you mentioned something. This would be my answer. Werewolves feel, in contrast to vampires, who often just don't. It's one of the things that I think that they're looking to shift and gradually improve when it comes to Vampire the Masquerade. Is like, originally they were like, you don't really feel emotions as keenly. You're undead. Which I think in the 90s, that felt cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to feel. I don't have to care about anything. And if I have sex, it's because I'm just like, I don't know, I guess I'll dally with this person for a while, but I'm not going to truly feel it like the way I want to.
Shit, the Evanescence CD ran out again. Put it back on. Start it over at the beginning.
And I think they're making some changes to that. But specifically here, like, werewolves are defined by how they feel about things. And this game is also a part of realizing that sometimes the emotions that you feel are critical to your success, and they can also be your downfall. You can build up your rage. As player characters, you can absolutely do what you need to do in order to go into a situation having access to this resource that can ultimately turn you into a massive killing machine. But that rage may also be the thing that separates you from the world that you wish you could be a part of.
Yeah.
It could be your downfall, as the thing that you are meant to protect may end up being the thing that you will destroy. There's some interesting interplay in there, I think, about and a lot of narrative kind of richness to mine there, because one thing that we'll all have to do as we buy into this game is that werewolves, one of the reasons why they didn't succeed is because their own rage turns them often against each other. And there are werewolves who disagree, and there will be moments where you're challenged by other Guru, where you're not going to be able to just say, can't we all just get along? Because you can't. Rage is there. And that rage should be pointed at the enemy, but not always.
It's a fascinating microcosm for, like, what happens in interpersonal relationships sometimes too, right? The desire to want to work with or empathize with or hear somebody else, but then the inability to do so because we're people and we have feelings. It's hard. It can be really difficult. Yeah, for sure.
Erwin, I'm going to also point something out. You've mentioned here, I've pretty much convinced Blue that a werewolf game based around a motorcycle club would be perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I don't really have anything else to say. Like, yeah, that absolutely would be fucking badass. And you should go ahead and do that.
We have points in drive. Did anyone have points in
Yes, I
I'm
have
good.
one. Oh, am I the driver?
drive? You're the driver, yeah.
Oh, I haven't been the driver in a while.
So you'll be on the front of the motorbike and we're in the sidecar. It's a very big sidecar.
I absolutely have a motorcycle.
Erwin also mentions, I think, also setting aside the bad science of alphas, betas, etc., the pack family aspects of these really powerful, destructive people is cool. It's punk as fuck. That is something that's different. In 5th edition, they don't really talk about alphas and betas, whereas in previous editions they did, because, surprise, surprise, it turns out that wolves don't actually do these things. In fact, the person who published that research then spent the rest of his career trying to take it back. There are definitely leaders, and in a pack, there will be times where someone will take leadership and others will want to take it from you. But there is definitely this feeling of family that exists, and a pack isn't always necessarily permanent, but when it exists, it is considered to be an extremely important social part, right? You'll see as we go through this game what it means to be a pack and what that can help you with, and how that might also mean sacrifice and pain. So there is some cool stuff to go in there as well. Everyone also asks, in changing the streaming, there was cross-splat play. Thoughts on that?
As in there were other
Vampires, werewolves, and mages all made their appearance in Changeling the streaming, because eventually you run out of ideas and you have to, oh my god.
I was going to say, it's going to be directly proportional to how long the campaign is.
Yeah.
Mostly kidding.
I mean, the career came in pretty early, actually. I think it was cool. I'm okay with it happening or not as a player. I don't control these things.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have cross-splat play if that ends up being interesting. I will state, though, for the record, that, like I said at the beginning, we aren't necessarily going to be beholden to what other splat books say. As much as they can play nicely together, they don't mesh perfectly, and it can be a mistake sometimes to be like, well, if I'm going to bring a vampire, I'll stat the vampire as I would a player character in this other book. That doesn't necessarily make for a great balanced antagonist. So we reserve the right to make changes to other splats if we need to. And of course, mages and changelings have no 5th edition equivalent, so we'll see.
There you go.
Flower of August asks, aren't vampires a pretty good go-to bad guy for wolf people? Kind of, but not as much as they once were. It used to be that vampires were of the worm by definition, and you must defeat the worm wherever it dwells. But that's no longer specifically the case. Some vampires absolutely can have, involvement with apocalypse or with the worm, but it is no longer a default. And while a lot of werewolves are very much like, we don't trust them and we could kill them, so let's do that, vampires can also be great sources of information or resources. So sometimes you get in bed with the enemy to defeat a greater enemy, and also to enjoy being in bed.
I was going to say, perhaps even literally, we'll have to see.
Oh, Dante.
What? Everyone wants me to fuck this stick. God damn it. Or iPhone, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, something a little more interesting. I mean, whatever floats your boat.
Interesting. It's a tech stick. Anyway, good lord.
Yeah, so it's really going to come down to when we see cross-splat play, whether that fits the sort of campaign that we want to run, but it also depends on how we choose to interpret those splats, because we have not the benefit of all of them being together. At least there aren't as many kind of like turbo builds Like, oh yeah, if I'm playing a vampire with celerity 5, why even bother doing anything?
Right.
Like, I spend 1 blood. I'll take 6 actions this round.
I have a gift I can use. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, uh-oh.
Well, in previous editions, werewolves were generally considered, if you were like just straight combat, werewolves were considered to be like the most combat oriented of all the characters, but like their builds for every single splat that you could be like, this is completely OP. Remind me to tell you about the fucking childling Elened She, who could just destroy anything that they wanted to, right? Like,
childling.
I would like to draw your attention to Oseb's comment.
Oh, it's a good one.
I
mean,
Yeah.
and I will name the AI assistant Annika just to fight you, Osa.
now I'm just looking forward to you know, Dante just sitting in a corner and being like, what's wrong? And he's just like, I really want to fuck Siri,
Oh God.
Oh no!
but Alexa won't let me.
I'm in a love triangle with
Siri and Alexa.
I would say that
Everyone's home assistant
Yeah,
is just reaching out, popping her
that
in.
certain
Sorry.
AI systems in Werewolf the Apocalypse may end up having a spirit attached to it. It may have more significance than, you know, our joking around.
yeah.
And Cortana, well, Cortana's a little different. Cortana's being Sunset.
Tragic.
Because no one uses Cortana. And they are moving on to Microsoft Copilot, which is ChatGPT enabled.
Okay.
Oh.
No.
Please, Miss.
Google home assistant.
Or you could always just go back to Bungie and be like, so why was Cortana naked? And they're like, because she wanted to be.
It was a game for teenage boys.
That's the real answer.
That's correct. Yeah. Whereas this is for everyone.
Yeah.
Mature audiences only. Yeah.
Werewolves have an immense capacity for violence. I like to think now, like, are werewolves, in terms of violence, are they gases, liquids, solids? Do they
So much capacity.
Do they expanded violence to fit the container they're in?
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
That's why Krynos is so large.
Yeah. Large.
Now I'm just
more
imagining our
violence.
werewolves like cats filling whatever they're poured into. Just like,
I have a spirit in the Umbra who calls me stud mouth.
Glad that's.
Are there any other questions that people have?
Stud mother.
Do you three have any questions while we're here in session 0? Because we'd absolutely love to answer them. But while we're waiting for those, I can also just have one of you.
Yeah, I have a
when do
question.
we play?
We play on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern
Sure, right
for
here.
3 hours, right here.
right here.
For 3 whole fucking hours. Oh my
I
god.
have a question, John, actually.
What's your question?
My question involves, do we want to talk a little bit about what chronicle tenants are, and maybe even the ones for this chronicle, or we can
Oh
leave those
shit,
to
we
the
didn't
side?
even touch on Chronicle.
It's just occurring to me looking at them now that they exist.
Sure, go nuts.
I will. As part of not character creation, but campaign creation for Werewolf 5th, in addition to being encouraged to create a relationship map where you map out how you feel about other PCs and NPCs and, you know, the dots on your sheet, as I spoke about before, you are also you are mandated to choose chronicle tenets. These are rules by which your PCs attempt to live in the campaign. I say attempt to because there are consequences for breaking them. It's not that you must live up to these or else your PC is unplayable, like get out, go to another town. It's that it triggers a roll for Hirano, I think.
It's
The other one,
Hogwask.
Hogwask. God, every time. That's going to be a thing. But yeah, so you are mandated to choose these chronicle tenants because it also establishes the kind of game that you want to be playing and that your characters will have to try to abide by as they continue.
So very specifically, they're not lines or veils. Do you
Right.
wanna get into that?
That's a really good point.
I mean, I can talk about sorry. Yeah, they shouldn't be lines or veils. So if you want to say, we aren't going to hurt the innocent, if that's something, the point of the tenets is something that your characters generally accept as a rule, but they can be broken, hence why there's a mechanical penalty to not doing it. If it's something that the people at your table are not comfortable with happening, it just shouldn't exist in your game. That's a line or a veil.
Yeah.
But, if you're like, oh, well, we won't hurt bystanders, but you're okay with occasionally things get bad and you do beat up some bystanders, then that could work as a tenet because it's something that generally your group will avoid doing. But if it happens, then it's a big deal for it to happen.
Right. This is equivalent to, as we kind of spoke about before, it's sort of in the same vein as like Limit Break in Exalted.
Yeah,
kind
limit
of.
triggers in Exalted.
Yeah, thank you.
Your antithesis in Changeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things that it's like, oh man, my character really wants to avoid doing this, but you can't always.
So, do you want to have a look at what our Chronicle tenets are? Because you
Hell
bought
yeah.
me enough time.
Yeah, we did it. We did it, everyone.
Someone read them out.
You want to read these?
I will not turn my back on innocence in need. Tradition will not keep me from doing what's right, and spirits will find vengeance.
We'll see if the wording has to change.
Yeah.
For one thing, these Chronicle tenets are what we're starting with. We may change them if it turns out that we feel that they're either too restrictive or not restrictive enough, right? We want them to come into play. So, as is usual, things may change. Spirits will find vengeance has a double-edged meaning. It means that those spirits who have been wronged and who the characters are allied with must be avenged, but also spirits who wrong them must find their own vengeance. They must be revenged.
Ah.
I'll revenge you.
You can revenge once, but you gotta revenge again.
About tenets.
Yeah, grouper bench. You're right. That's a relatively quick one to answer. Is there a benefit to adopting the tenets, or does it just impose consequences when you violate them? From my remembrance of the book, there's no benefit to sort of like standing by them. It's just there's got to be enough risk to like you want to break them sometimes. I think as players, not as characters.
Or come up against the edge of breaking them. Like they should
Hell
be
yeah.
something that generally that's the rules of your society, right?
Yeah,
Thou shalt not kill. But yet sometimes people kill. So yeah, it's
And that is a mandatory part of character and chronicle creation as well. So it's not like a pick and choose how many you want. I think the book even says you need 3.
3.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the benefit is you don't run into Hauglask.
Yeah.
The Hauglask being the state of werewolves who have decided that action is required immediately and without restriction. That they'd be willing to do anything and everything in order to fight apocalypse, including war crimes, atrocities,
Right.
Punching a teddy bear. So
You bastard.
no,
You wouldn't dare.
would.
Download a card.
Randy Hedgehog asks, can you elaborate a bit more on the Umbra? What does it look like? What is its purpose? Why is it important to the Guru? Well, we can't.
Hey!
We can throw up some information on the Umbra here. So spirits are incredibly important to werewolves because they kind of they are themselves not quite human, not quite spirit, kind of in the middle. And the spiritual world is part of what they're trying to protect. The Umbra is a spiritual reflection of the real world. And there are times where werewolves will need to go in there in order to petition spirits to teach them gifts, in order to see the spiritual landscape and how the real world is affecting it, possibly even in an attempt to move through the spirit world without being encountered in the physical world. So there are a bunch of different reasons why you may want to go into the Umbra. It's also a good place to discover information like secrets, secrets on the nature of spirits in the Umbra itself.
Unlike in, I think, other World of Darkness games, but also other sort of like settings in general, it's not quite the same as like Alice Through the Looking Glass. She just like went through a real place and ended up in a fantastical place. Like it is a deliberate action that you have to take through a rite to pass through the gauntlet and enter the Umbra. It's not something you can just kind of like wander. You're wandering down the street and it's getting a little dark and spooky, and like you're in the Umbra all of a sudden. It's something you have to enter deliberately. I think it's an important kind of distinction, I think, just to put out there.
Does there remain a penalty for staying too long in the Umbra?
Ooh, it's a scary ass place.
It's a scary ass place that you shouldn't spend a whole lot of time in is kind of like the answer. I don't remember. I'll have to check. But I don't believe that there is a specific mechanical thing that happens to werewolves who stay too long in the Umbra. But again, it'll be in the book and I'll have a look. But don't have that answer for you right away. I hate to admit this, but I have not committed the entire book to memory.
Yet.
Crash course it when it seems like we're heading into the...
Yeah, basically.
That's not where we're starting our campaign, spoilers.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Have you decided what the recaps will look like?
Ooh.
I think functionally they will be similar to what we did for Avatar Legends in that they will be roughly a minute long and we will play them live during the beginning of our sessions.
Yeah, that worked well.
And as for the specific flavor, it's unfortunately unlikely to be a 20s era transatlantic radio broadcaster.
Flash! It turns out that Pentex is down and it's dirty business again!
Yeah, something in that format we feel like it worked well for us, and as far as we know, it worked well for the audience.
God, maybe we should just do it that way.
It might
so
feel
jarring.
at odds with the feel of the game. I just want to flag it. Oh boy.
I mean, still though.
Late night AM radio host. Hey, welcome back to,
Elliespot dropping hints here. Will you summarize the prologue into an easily accessible and shareable YouTube video, one that would be easy to share in other communities, perhaps?
We're definitely going to do a recap for the prologue, but perhaps...
To be determined.
Yeah.
I think that it'd be useful to have something that we could showcase so that other people can see it. I'm not sure the prelude is the right thing for that.
Maybe just like a more general introduction to the world in which we live, kind of thing.
Like
Maybe we'll just do a supercut of this stream.
Maybe. Certainly something that we'll look into.
Listen sounds.
Yeah, it's just Liz vocalizing.
Dante's AI assistant can provide the recaps.
Previously on Montreal by Moonlight.
Have you had any thoughts about or discussed how much you want greater guru politics to play a part in the Chronicle?
Ooh. Have we discussed it? Have we discussed it?
Yeah, well, I think our chronicle tenet of tradition will not keep me from doing what is right may give you a sense of where the three of us align on certain things, whereas that we will not just bow down and follow what we're told. So in terms of greater guru politics, when we do brush up against them, we do brush up the cairns that exist and what then beyond them they affect. We won't just be following orders.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't think we've gotten into too much detail.
No. Although being a creature of like, I think at least the way that it's sort of stated in Werewolf Fifth, and I tend to agree, fighting the powers that be is like an inherently a political act. So whether or not that factors directly into like werewolf politics at large in the region, or in the nation, quote unquote.
I thought you said the Ragin instead of the
Ragin. Very good. The Raging Cajun.
I'll be able to say this. The Guru Nation has fallen. The meta plot that people may be familiar with from earlier editions of Werewolf does not apply. I know that there have been allusions to certain matters of the meta plot, like for instance, the Albrechts still exist, if you want to look into Silverfang lore. But Guru politics, yes, I think that will definitely come into play. But if you're looking for things like, but what about Zizek? Like, no. we're not going to deliberately bring in elements from previous editions of Werewolf into this because they may or may not fit. If we're borrowing anything from the past, it's because it absolutely can fit and it will still work. But I'm not going to require my players to be up to date on a meta plot that now no longer exists or is deprecated. So.
Which is great for you as viewers.
you.
You don't need to know it either.
Yep.
Yay!
Woo-hoo-hoo, be free.
We do have Flower of August checked. Yes, if you spend too long in the Umbra, every extra scene, it'll cost you willpower or aggravated health damage.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
After the first? My.
Scene.
After the
That's
first
not
scene.
like turn.
Right, yeah, but still, like, I mean, how long is a scene, you know?
But it takes a certain amount of concentration and a certain amount of dedication to remain in the Umbra.
Right.
You don't belong there.
Yeah, that's fair, that's fair.
Remnants. Ugh.
Ugh. Yikes.
Ericwin is curious as to whether there's an issue of staying in your wolf for too long. That, no. You can stay in your wolf for as long as you want. You're still a werewolf.
But Krynos or Krynos, which is the full werewolf form, that you have to spend a willpower every turn in order to maintain it.
Unless you've killed something.
Unless you've killed something, and then if you run out of willpower, want to stay in it, because you can just revert to a different form, but if you do want to stay in it, then it'll bring you up into frenzy, which gets serious, and you basically just kill everything in sight.
And then it's either Chop Suey or Dragula or
Yeah.
Bodies that starts playing.
Exactly.
Just get an 8-bit version of like. Bip, 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 bip.
Everyone's gonna go, what's happening? Be shorthand for
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Some other things that came in. Will there be cake? I think famously as a storyteller, I don't do cake. Not anymore. Not since then.
The incident.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Incredible.
The Gourd Whisperer comes in with some more information regarding the Umbra. The cost is for scenes after the first, so if you slip in and out to do your tasks, it's free with the right that you, in fact, Dante has. But if you need to travel a large distance or stay there for days or can't find a way out, you do begin wasting away. This is important because also in previous editions, if you made it too easy to go in and out of the Umbra, then basically you just be like, oh shit, we're being chased.
Whoop.
Yeah.
Duck in,
Yeah.
wait for all this to blow over.
Yeah. Go to the Umbra, have a pint.
I believe it is also, like, now that going into the Umbra specifically is a right, it used to be that stepping sideways was as simple as, like, just wanting to step sideways or
Wow.
glancing into a mirror. I think that there may still be ways to do it without the right. Again, I'd have to check.
Maybe
Specifically.
talismans to help or something.
Yeah.
And a scene is pretty abstract for how long it is.
Also true. Very true.
We can manage based on that. Have you decided what your character's wolf forms look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there was some discussion on that. I don't know if we can, because I don't have a printout of an image in front of me.
We can
This is
drop
a
them-
wolf.
We'll drop them in the Discord later.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
If you have reference images.
Yeah.
I will reveal that I have taken the merit of Clement to Lupus, that my wolf form looks more like a dog than a wolf, so if humans see me, they aren't instantly like, why the fuck is there a wolf in the middle of the city? But that said, I am a wolfsky, which is an Irish wolfhound mixed with a husky. But definitely looks in need of a bath. Scraggly and messy and stuff.
Oh my god.
Oh my
I
god.
love it so much. I'm so excited. Mine is very, very much a wolf. Black fur, but much in the way that our beloved Max's fur is. In the sunshine, the underside of his fur just looks a little copper.
Okay.
So it's that. So it looks like black
Much
fur,
bigger
but
than
like,
Max, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, as wee as Max.
Tiny wolf.
Max being their pet cat for those of
yes,
you who
of
are
Oh yes, of
unaware.
course. Yeah, that's fair.
But
They're 3 amazing cats.
Who will not be
you.
on stream? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gaia.
It's true. And yeah, and I similarly have. I'm not taking the merit for Clement Lupus, so it also my wolf form looks very wolf-like. But I had picked out an image which I'll drop in the Discord a little later. of I think it's a British Columbian wolf, I think was the like sort of subspecies. They kind of felt very like lanky and mangy, and patchy, which is what I was going for. I'll see if I can find the image I'm looking for. Yeah, I've got two like fuck-ups over here.
Dyed your fur, tattooed yourself in any way?
Ooh.
Some glasswalkers.
Well, so that's very interesting because we were talking
It's not
about
necessarily a
Maybe
great
like
idea.
bright pink.
It depends, because if
Uh-huh.
some people see a wolf with like bright pink fur, then that could be real bad.
Yeah, that's fair. Because we'll get into the weeds on it. But as part of the human like description, I definitely tattoos, piercings, like there's
Amazing.
that aspect. I hadn't considered it in the wolf form, John. It's really interesting.
Yep, it is possible, and some glasswalkers are definitely up for it. The Good Whisperer mentions, I also like that you can become a regular lupus, even if you're rage 0 and have lost most of your powers, even without the powerful emotions that fuel werewolves shifting to monstrous forms or bargaining with spirits. You are as much a wolf as a human. So yes, that is true. Your wolf form is not considered supernatural. All three of you were born as human, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is possible for werewolves to be born as wolves, but none of the player characters are. Erwin reminds me that we have a thing. Look, if you've watched the Session 0, then you deserve a little summon for that. So if you come on down to our Discord, then you can get your own deed name. I'm going to open up a thread, and if you give me your auspice and your tribe, I will assign you a deed name. Just because I hate myself, apparently. It's to train me to get back into making deed names. So
It's great.
by all means, show up there, come get one. Because, for some people, that will be super cool.
For those not as familiar with Werewolf 5th, I think a quick Google of like Werewolf 5th auspice and tribes will pull up a list with, the verbs that we've been talking about. You can of course also purchase Werewolf 5th edition, but no one's forcing you to enjoy this stream.
Also, if you really can't decide on an auspice or a deed name, just give me something.
Yeah.
So that I have something to go on. Otherwise, your deed name may very well be Milk Toast, and that will be it. Setting 2.
I think Bebe is allowed to have a deed name, right, John? You would
Sure.
make an exception for Bebe?
Sure.
Yay.
Toddles into destruction. I'm not making the deed names, clearly.
She who found the knives.
Oh my gosh.
She found a drawer of knives.
I don't know what to tell you. There's a drawer of knives.
Yeah, she's just like really good at finding things.
So that's kind of what we got going on here.
Yay!
Yay!
Very exciting.
Is there anything you want to leave for people to consider, considering that we are starting this next week?
Thanks for joining us
Yeah.
for session 0, and for your enthusiasm about this campaign.
I think if people want to like sort of theorize or contribute, not knowing sort of what the world will look like exactly yet, but based on what you've heard of our characters and how they've already interacted in our sort of like quote unquote prologue, if you want to, again, in the Discord, in the Werewolf 5th campaign, drop your thoughts about what you think could potentially happen to these characters in the future, or secrets you think they may have, that would be fun. If you want a tinfoil hat, get on in there and do that. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Although it'll be more fun once you've met some NPCs too. I think. Yeah, John's like, they're okay.
That was a question I had for you way back when. Are you going to be dropping any teasers about NPCs or
Sure.
some such over the coming
I
week?
was considering doing it here, but I think that just spending like a good 45 minutes of me.
No, I meant over the Discord.
Yeah, we'll be able to get some information about the various guru that will take place, that will inhabit both of the cairns that you two have been made aware of. So there is that there. We might be playing next week, but we may have other things in store.
Hell
What's
yeah.
coming up?
I normally stream on Tuesdays. I know I'm going to be unavailable because I have work commitments this week, but that doesn't mean you won't catch things on my channel. Stay tuned to the Discord. I really want to pick up a Steel stream at some point this week because Paul Prospero is in the midst of exploring an old children's set, like a children's show set, and it's like the weirdest kind of spooky, so get in there.
Mia Sand requested a hot takes
Oh my.
Werewolf 5th edition. And I'm very tempted to do that. We'll see when we'll make that available. It's going to depend on scheduling, but we'll see if we can get that. We'll see if we can don the sunglasses, the scrubs, and
All hot takes all the time.
go off on what I think. But what's happening on Friday?
Friday, we are
Yeah. Oh yeah.
almost certainly a go for more Punchy. God of Boy, 6 p.m. my channel.
Yeah.
Saturday?
No Drew Crew.
Oh, are we unavailable?
Yeah.
I remember what we're doing. Oh yeah, I know. Remember what we're doing.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Yeah. So unfortunately, but again, I'm hoping we can maybe find another time to sneak one in at some point.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because
Yeah.
Crew is too good. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Sunday we will be back here, this channel, this time. We will be playing our very first session of Werewolf the Apocalypse, Montreal by Moonlight.
It's also Punchy Book Club next week.
Oh,
Just remember.
Yeah.
The next 2 issues of Saga Volume 10. So I think it's 57 and 58 that we're up to, but it will be confirmed in the Discord.
Hey.
What are you prompting me for? Something?
There was one last thing we wanted to mention at the end of this session. Yeah, go for it.
Do you want me to, or
Whichever.
there was a member of our community who was very much looking forward to playing Werewolf 5th edition and to watching this campaign. Sadly, Pookajutsu is no longer with us, but honestly, we are looking forward to popping claws and kicking ass and really raging for Gaia, but also for Pook. So, this one's for you.
big hearts. Big hearts.
We look forward to seeing you next week. But in the meantime, we're headed
Those-
that way. See you next time.
Bye.